Good morning. This is Scott Craig, Public Policy Advisor for KLMP. And I'm just coming off of a tremendous week that I had the honor of sharing with Dale Bartscher, the Executive Director of the Family Heritage Alliance, on whose board I have the honor of being a member. Now, I want you to know that last week, the Family Heritage Alliance, we had two incredible banquets. They were fundraising banquets here in the state. The first one was last Tuesday night. It was right here in Rapid City, and the special guest speaker that came in for it was Rick Santorum, Senator Rick Santorum. And then 2 nights later, we were in Sioux Falls, and our special guest speaker there for the banquet was Dr. Tony Perkins, the president of the Family Research Council, of which the Family Heritage Alliance is associated. And I have Dale Bartscher again with me, and we're going to talk about a very important amendment that you've already seen on your ballot if you've gone to vote. If you haven't gone to vote yet, you're going to learn about it this morning. So good morning, Dale.
Thank you, Scott. Good to be here.
Let's jump right into Amendment Q.
Amendment Q is an amendment that the Family Heritage Alliance stands strongly opposed to. And we would hope that its passage would go down in flames come November 4. Amendment Q simply places 3 games on the ballot. The games are roulette, craps, and keno. So this is a gambling amendment. It will allow Deadwood, South Dakota, and thereby our reservations to play these new games of roulette, craps, and keno. And by state constitution, this must be passed. And so Amendment Q will need a 60% passage in order to pass.
Okay, so this Amendment Q is brought by the South Dakota Gaming Commission.
Yes, well, it was brought by them, but it was brought through the state legislature in the form of a resolution. It was Resolution 1001, and so this year our state legislature looked at that and voted to send it on to the people for a vote. The Family Heritage Alliance Action fought that hard, and on the House floor, we lost by 2 votes. So now it goes to the vote of the people, and so we have an opportunity to vote on it come November 4.
Dale, who is this bill targeting?
Well, Amendment Q introduced to Deadwood and the reservation these games of crap, roulette, and keno. All 3 of the games are designed to lure our young gamblers to the table. In other words, Scott, what we have is addiction by design. The gaming industry knows exactly what they're doing, and we find the city of Deadwood is in trouble. In fact, they need to do something to revitalize the gaming institution if they're going to keep it alive. Gambling across the nation is really in decline. People are beginning to see it for what it is. They're losing more than they are winning. Of course, this is the concept of the gaming industry. And so Deadwood, in order to spice up its games, believe that they need to lure in the young gambler in order to addict the young gambler to the gambling industry, so they have revenue not only for the short term but for the long term. We say Amendment Q is wrong on so many levels. Surely South Dakota can do better.
Yeah, we don't need to recruit young people for anything else.
Another vice.
Yeah, another vice. It's incredible. Now, Dale, I know a couple nights ago you were on Coda TV. I think you're doing interviews throughout the state right now speaking about this. So people are going to you because you're the go-to regarding the opposing view. And then, of course, we also see their spokespeople and big billboards that they've got because they got a lot of money to put a big yes on 17. And what are you hearing as far as right now? I think you said something off microphone that this will probably pass with a majority vote, 60% of the people voting.
Well, anytime you are about to alter the state constitution, it ought to cause every South Dakotan to take a pause, take a deep breath, because this is serious business.
Yeah,
so they need a 60% vote. Well, the surveys, so says the gaming industry. And these are the only surveys being taken that they're winning this issue 2-1. So with that in mind, you have to pause and wonder, why is it in the last 3 weeks of this election, they have just now begun their Yes on 6 campaign. And so they are pumping more than likely hundreds of thousands of dollars into this campaign going forward in order to assure not just a 60% vote, which they need for passage, but they, of course, want to go far beyond that. Because if the South Dakotans vote yes on Q and it passes November 4, it still needs to go to the South Dakota State Legislature legislature for a vote this January, February, or March, the session in 2015. So our legislators will be the last firewall to say to the gaming industry, enough is enough. We don't have to addict our young people to the gambling revenue. We can do better. So they will have the opportunity to stop it there. Of course, the gaming industry, they want to be able to say to the legislature, this did not win by 60%, it won by 75%. And that'll be the argument on the floor of the House and the floor of the Senate.
Well, we sure hope the legislature will have the courage to do what's right, Dale. For those who just joined us on the program, this is 88.3 KLMP The Light. This is Scott Craig. My guest is Dale Bartscher, Executive Director of the Family Heritage Alliance. We're talking about Amendment Q, something that is on your ballot throughout the state right now. It has to do with expanding gaming in the state of South Dakota. And not only does it expand gaming, it expands some problems that come with gaming. Isn't that right, Dale?
Gambling is not a safe bet for South Dakota. This is not free money. And if an individual out there simply says, this is not my personal vice, well, let me tell you, it will still affect you, your family, your neighbors, the community, the state in a negative way. So we would simply say to the legislators, here's the facts that maybe you have not heard. Do you know that there are 18, according to the National Council on Problem Gambling, that it is estimated that there are 18,000 addicted gamblers in the state of South Dakota alone. We will say to our legislators, do you know that $15,780,000 is the annual cost to society here in South Dakota as a result of our addicted gamblers? This cost comes in the form of lost jobs, unemployment benefits, welfare benefits, poor physical and mental health, and gambling treatment. Do you know that 10,800 is the estimated number of South Dakotans that will commit a crime because of their addiction each year? Do you know that in the year 2012, it was estimated that there were 50 embezzlements due to a gambling addiction? Well, that number has got to surely be on the rise. Do you know that 9,000 is the estimated number of South Dakotans that will abuse their spouse or children because of their addiction in any given year? Do you know that 3,600 is the estimated number of South Dakotans who will attempt suicide because of their addiction? Friends, that's a lot of facts that we will give to our legislators once again. Get all the hype out of the way as to what Deadwood needs, because they're always going to come back with the need to expand gaming. Let's just talk about the facts of the negative secondary effects of gaming in the state of South Dakota.
Dale, I wonder how the people of South Dakota would vote if all that information was there on the ballot.
Scott, just recently, I saw a billboard put out by the gaming industry just outside of Rapid City, and the billboard read, "We're losing our shirts out there." Well, I'm sorry, but I don't feel a lot of sympathy for the casinos because there are thousands of South Dakotan families who are losing a lot more than their shirts.
Yeah.
Scott, they're losing their cars, food off their table, homes, jobs, marriages, children, and freedom because they're being incarcerated. Surely, South Dakota, we can do better than this.
So it's a no.
No
on cue.
It is a no on cue. If I could just share one final thought, Scott. Gambling has been defined as, and I quote, "the art and science of deception that feeds the exploitation of human weakness for the sole purpose of monetary gain." Listen, South Dakota would never consider the promoting and profiting of human trafficking, and yet the gaming industry in our great state is allowed to traffic in human weakness. And we see nothing wrong with this. Something is seriously wrong. Yes, we're encouraging our listeners to vote no on Q.
Dale, thank you so much for your time this morning and all that insight into Amendment Q. And folks, listen, I want you to keep in mind www.fhaaction.org. Again, www.fhaaction.org. That is the website of the 501c4 arm of the Family Heritage Alliance. And on that website, you can find where the Family Heritage Alliance endorses or opposes certain candidates and proposed laws. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to know who it is that you're voting for and that you're putting in the office people who share your values, your biblical worldview. I mean, if you remember, we talked about this recently down in Houston, the city of Houston, the mayor, an outspoken lesbian. She has subpoenaed pastors down there demanding that they turn in any of their sermons, communications, emails, texts with any members of their congregation regarding homosexuality, gender identity, and if they don't, she says she's going to fine them and or put them in prison. My goodness. Then, just a couple days ago, in Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, city officials told Donald Knapp and his wife Evelyn, who are both ordained ministers, and they run the Hitching Post Wedding Chapel. They ordered them to perform homosexual wedding ceremonies or face months in jail and or thousands of dollars in fines every day. But our friends at ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, are going to represent them. But they wouldn't have to be representing them if the people of Coeur d'Alene would have voted for themselves, leaders with a biblical worldview. And ADF is also representing these pastors down in Houston. And they shouldn't have to be doing that if the citizens of Houston would have voted for a mayor with biblical worldview. But as Tony Perkins told us, only 16% of the citizens of Houston voted when that mayor was put into office. 16% out of 100% of the citizens who could have voted, only 16% did vote, and so she got elected. Moral of the story, vote and know who you're voting for. Go to www.fhaaction.org, where you can see how candidates from across the state line up with biblical values. Again, I want to thank Dale Bartscher, Executive Director of the Family Heritage Alliance, for being on the program this morning. This is Scott Craig, Public Policy Advisor for KLMP, and now back to Julie Norwood in the Morning Show.